I want to go to UNC out of the tournament, declining the NIT invitation as well. Lewis, you're a great reporter. You're a great media member, but I want you to take that hat off and put your fan hat on for just a second here. Was
So,
there any part of you disappointed that the Tar Heels aren't playing in the NIT?
for those of you who don't know, I graduated undergrad from UNC. So we'll just put that out there. Come at me if you feel like I'm being biased in any way, shape, or form, now or in the future. So I have thought long and hard about this because it is a very charged topic. Oh my gosh, the replies underneath the comments from UNC, the statements, wow, just charged. Um, I think it's kind of there are a few sides to this, right? First off, anytime a blue blood program, anytime a high profile program does not make the NCAA tournament and has the potential to play in the NIT, it is a lose-lose situation. You accept, everyone makes fun of you for being a part of the NIT. You decline, everyone says you're an elitist and you think you're better than the NIT. I think it's kind of twofold here. What the question I'm sure Hubert Davis and the rest of the UNC staff asked was, what is best for this basketball team and this basketball program moving forward? I think that with that in mind, they made the decision that they felt would be best, which was essentially, hey, let's regroup. Let's figure out what's going on with this team moving forward, because it's obvious watching this UNC team, the issues are a lot deeper than just not playing this, not shooting this. There are some interior, deep perspective questions they have to answer. And if the best thing to do that is to just say the season is done, we're moving forward, then hey, that's what you got to do. So I don't have an issue with it from that perspective. Is it a little disappointing to not compete when you have the opportunity to compete? Yes, I think that's also fair. I think that ultimately this is a lose-lose situation for UNC.
Yeah.
Whatever they decide to do, the transfer portal opens up today. So if you start seeing activity there from a UNC perspective, maybe that puts things into a little bit more context here. I think that based on how the season started for UNC and how the season ended for UNC, they've opened themselves up for criticism, whether that is deserved or not. Most cases deserved. They have opened themselves up for criticism, and they have to just kind of eat that humble pie. That's just how it is in this situation. Is it fair? I don't know. Some ways yes, some ways no. But you gotta put your money where your mouth is, and they failed to do that this year.
Let me piggyback off this, Lewis, with your point about it being a lose-lose. If you accept the NIT bid and win, is the preseason number one, it's like, well, you were supposed to do this anyways, given the competition in the NIT and that those teams weren't good enough to make the field of 68 in the NCAA tournament. So that's what you're talking about as well. And at least in the immediate run, like, do you want me to go through the stats really quickly of how historic UNC not making the tournament is, Lewis? Do you want me to go to which players are back next year? Do you want me to go to recruits? I can go in a lot of different directions here. Tell me and I'll take off in any direction.
Well, see, and this is when I start thinking of like, man, it's time for the season to be over. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I think that's where things are with this UNC team, is it's time for the season to be over.
Yeah.
I think of like, there's kind of two ways to look at this NIT situation from a team perspective, right? There were a lot of young players on UNC's team that did not get a lot of reps this year. The Jalen Washingtons of the world, the Tyler Nichols of the world, like those type of players. That Seth Trimble, seeing him get more reps would have been great. And the NIT could serve as an opportunity for that. So you have that half of things, and then you have the other half of the more experienced players, the starters, who were essentially getting all the stuff. Pete Nance, his time is done. He only had 1 year left. You had Leaky Black. His career at UNC is done. Just like that. Boom. Armando Bacot has to make a decision. He has 1 more year he could come back for, that COVID year. Where do we go from there? You have Caleb Love and RJ Davis, who are more experienced players, but they have decisions to make as well. So I don't know. What do you think, Mark? What is? I feel like I've talked a lot during all of this. What are your thoughts on? It kept me up last night, man. Just thinking about the
well, no more lemon Oreos for you, Lewis.
No more lemon Oreos for everyone.
But okay. The questions you have to ask is who's coming back? Is Baycott going to the league? Love RJ Davis. Personally, it's just my prediction. I think both Baycott and Love will go. I think Davis will be back. We'll see. I could totally be wrong about that. That's just my best guess. So then you also ask yourself the question of, really not the question, but who's coming in? And I look at the recruiting classes, and this is not to put too much pressure on any freshmen coming in. 2023 class, you've got 2 players coming in. 2024, you're loaded.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
got some studs coming in. So you got to be patient with Hubert Davis. This team will be back in March Madness a year from now. I'm calling this right now. You got to be patient from him. But the frustration, Lewis, lies with this. When you're not making the tournament for the first time since 2010, we all know since the field expanded to 64 teams in the mid 80s, UNC's the first team not to make it as preseason number 1. First AP preseason number 1 to have multiple 3-game losing streaks in a single season. And I got one other for you too, speaking of the triangle teams.
Hit
By
me.
missing the NCAA tournament, the Tar Heels first preseason number 1 team to miss the NCAA tournament since NC State in 1974, 1975.
And
So
and you
those are
know
the stakes you're talking about.
and you know what NC State didn't do after missing the tournament? They didn't play in the NIT that season. Interesting. But like there, I think the context of all that is important, Mark. Thank you. But I think ultimately, like there is a lot of criticism for UNC now that the season is over, and it's deserved. Like you can sit here and be upset that people are coming at you with the intensity that they are. We know the toxicity of sports social media. Like that's not any different. That's something that's been around since social media has been around. But you kind of just have to eat it. That's just what it is. You made your bed, and now you got to lay in it. Like that's just where UNC is at. So even if ultimately this is the right decision to not play in the NIT tournament, that feels a little bit like the Atlantic Coast Conference. Even if they make the right decision here, at least in the immediate, they have to deal with the backlash of what people are going to say and going to be upset about. I think I get it. I do. I get not playing the NIT, but you're just gonna have to take it. That's all you can do at this point.
Lewis, I'm not one to wish my life away, but come 2024 and I look at the mixtapes, Elliot
Where are we
Cadeau,
going here?
Ian Jackson, I'm telling you, man, be patient if you're a Tar Heels fans because greener pastures are coming. You're going to be back in a title game before you know it. I'm just calling this right now. Stay the course, be patient. We want instant gratification as a society, and it's okay. This team was going to finish what they started last season. They were just short in the title game a year ago against KU, and trying to build on that. Every season's a little bit different, but I see the caliber of recruits you got coming in again beyond 2023. Try to see the forest between the trees, Lewis.
I think at this point, it's we're going to learn a lot about Hubert Davis as a head coach next year. That next year, the year after that, those are going to be very big for him and his tenure at UNC. So, it's funny. I don't think there's going to be as much pressure on them next year as there was this year. Obviously, being the preseason number 1, but it's not exactly a whole lot different either. It's going to be really interesting to see what UNC does next year.